This is Health Yeah, your weekly update on what's going on in the health, wellness, and medical world with Monica Robbins.
In a world where we're bombarded with negativity, one can't help but be pessimistic and feel anxious. Turning on positivity can be challenging when faced with stressful situations. Well, today, we want to help you learn the power of positivity and how it can have lasting health benefits.
You can get neuroinflammation, it leads to anxiety, depression.
And experts say it all starts in the mind. Ahead, how to reframe the way you think and improve your mental attitude. Plus, a 6-year-old author who knows the power of positivity.
I am strong. I am amazing.
It's all straight ahead on this week's edition of Prescription for Life. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Monica Robbins. We've all been through challenging times, individually and collectively. We all have some stress in our lives, but it's how we look at these issues that's different. Lots of research shows there's science behind the power of positivity. A Johns Hopkins study found people with a positive outlook and family history of heart disease were 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack or other cardiovascular event within 5 to 25 years. That's compared to those who had a more negative outlook. A University of Kansas study found that smiling, even fake smiling, reduces heart rate and blood pressure during stressful situations. The Mayo Clinic claims that positive thinking can increase your lifespan, reduce depression, and build up your resistance to the common cold. Being positive may come easily for some people, but for those glass half empty people, our expert will show us how to learn this skill. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, some ways to set your day in the right direction. Michelle Choi shares some tips for creating affirmations that will bring you the most powerful results.
We decided to set up at different parks to ask this question. How many number of thoughts do you think a person has every day?
At least a couple hundred, honestly.
I would say it's in the thousands.
According to a study conducted by psychologists at Queen's University, turns out an average person has more than 6,000 thoughts in a single day.
I mean, I'm not surprised because I know my mind is constantly racing.
And if you're thinking all these thoughts, good or bad, have an impact on your mind and body, you're correct. Here's Dr. Jin Yoon, assistant professor of psychiatry at UT Health, to explain.
And the way you think about things, clearly that can impact you. And we know those can actually have a significant biological impact on you. You can get neuroinflammation, it leads to anxiety, depression.
One way to combat those negative thoughts and feelings through positive self-affirmations.
Self-affirmation is really focusing on kind of clarifying what are your core values in life, what is important to you.
So whether you value family and friends, work, creativity, self-affirmations encourage you to think positively and see the bigger picture.
Sometimes focusing more on your core values again can kind of wipe the slate, kind of remove the clutter.
Like a reset button for the mind. Self-affirmations can all be different.
I am powerful, I am a woman of God, and I am golden. Every day, every morning, I wake up and I say these things.
Hi, I'm Chris McCalmont. Everything is all right already.
Tailored to fit your needs.
I'm actually unemployed right now and looking for a job, and so I need these affirmations, and this one has really been helping me make it through.
Whether you're feeling down or you're struggling with depression and anxiety, Dr. Yoon says positive self-affirmations.
My name is Terry Ruiz, and I'm going to be okay.
Can be a powerful mental health tool.
What ends up happening is you have less stress and anxiety.
There's also a scientific reason behind why self-affirmations work. Positive statements like these.
My name is Destiny, and my affirmation is everything happens for a reason.
Activate the reward circuits in your brain.
That's important because it literally means that people are seeing the world in a better way.
At this point, you're probably wondering, how do I start using positive affirmations? Here are 3 easy steps experts say you can follow. First, affirmations work best when spoken out loud and are repeated. Second, always use it in present tense. And third, keep them short and avoid negatives.
Hi, my name is Monty, and I just want to tell you to take it day by day.
Hi, my name is Michael Bradford. Always come from a place of trust.
Here's to positive thoughts and vibes, everyone.
Now to our expert who shows us how to become more positive. Joining me now is Dr. Susan Albers, who is a psychologist with Cleveland Clinic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Every time you're here, we learn something new. And today we're going to be talking about improving your mental attitude. That is a mountain for a lot of people to climb, especially with all the negativity that's coming at us constantly. So where do you start?
It's true. We are surrounded by so much negativity. A positive mental attitude are those hopeful and optimistic thoughts. And we're not ignoring that there is negative things, stressful things happening in the world, but we choose where to place our thoughts and putting them on the upside. And what research has shown is that positive mental attitude is helpful in reducing depression, anxiety. It can even protect your health, because what happens when we are stressed is our bodies are flooded with cortisol when we're negative, and that starts to wear and tear on our body. And the inflammation is the last thing we need, because it just makes you hot and more mad, right? True, very true. So what is the one thing that people can do, at least, because it's, for some people, they're not the glass half full kind of person. They're not necessarily a positive person to begin with. So how do you change that framework in your head? For some people, it comes naturally, but if it doesn't, that is okay, because it's something you can learn and you can practice. The key aspect is changing your self-talk. And self-talk is that inner dialogue that is going on in our head 24/7. And the biggest sabotager of that positive mental mindset is judgment, criticism, and comparison. And so when you start listening closely, you notice how often that pops up. So taking a pause, identifying it, and changing it, putting a different frame. And here's an example. Let's say in the morning you get up and you go over your to-do list and you say to yourself, I have to go to work, I have to do the laundry, and it feels very heavy. Changing one word, I get to, can be a game changer. I get to go to work. I'm healthy enough to go to work. I get to do laundry. It's an opportunity. And this just puts a little different framework on it. And we can practice identifying when we're talking negatively and change it around. For me, whenever I cover a story and I meet somebody who is going through a horrible time, I'm grateful that I go home and that's something I don't have to deal with. Yeah. That just came because I see this every day. I don't know how I can teach that to somebody else, except for, you mentioned comparison. And that's very important, especially with social media, because a lot of people don't realize there are really good filters out there. And just because you see somebody who has a perfect picture doesn't mean their life is perfect. Sure. How do you get that through to somebody who is constantly looking at him or her and their life is so much better than mine, or they have things that I don't have, that sort of thing? Exactly what you're saying is remembering that we get one little picture of people's lives and trying to step into their shoes and imagining what their life is like. Talking to other people every single day helps to give us perspective and looking at that big picture. What about bitterness? There's a lot of people who maybe have had something negative happen to them, and they're just bitter and they can't get over it. Bitterness comes from sadness and hurt. And when you can identify and connect with that piece of it, we react to the anger. We want to push back, but taking a moment and thinking about what are some of the sadnesses that may be happening behind that bitterness, it gives us a little bit more compassion. How do you teach empathy? Teaching empathy is trying to step in someone else's shoes and having compassion, thinking about if this was my best friend or a child, how would I be interacting with them? How would I be talking to them? Giving them the benefit of the doubt. Thinking about, we often look at it from our perspective, but trying to see it from their perspective. My attitude's always been, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I've had a lot of people tell me that's not necessarily the greatest way to go through life, but it works for me. But how do you help people who are constantly looking or worrying about, but this could happen and that could happen and what happened to me yesterday? And our brains are wired to look for the negative. It's called the negativity bias. We focus in on the negative. It's from evolution. If we can see the danger that's coming or the possible what ifs, it's protective. Unfortunately, you fast forward to today, it can really get our thoughts to be stuck into the negative. So what we have to do is really start to look at things from a different perspective, being much more hopeful instead of thinking what if, what is, staying in the present. 85% of what we worry about according to research, never happens. And it drains us of that energy. So we have to stay present, let go of the past, not worry about the future, and really try and control in the present what we can control.
And if things are really bad, live 5 minutes at a time.
True.
Is pretty much my life 24/7. So talk to me though about kindness and practicing general kindness toward other people. It's not necessarily about the other person, it's about you.
Kindness starts with yourself, having compassion for yourself. If we think about what we go through in a day, and we give ourselves sometimes the benefit of the doubt, we often don't do that for other people. Think about how you would treat yourself, but it starts with us. In one day, write down, what are some kind things that I can do for myself? Sometimes they're simple things like getting enough sleep. And it sounds very simple, but sometimes we don't even take care of those basic needs. And when we start prioritizing ourselves and our basic needs, then we can start being kind to other people.
Self-care is not selfish.
Yeah.
It's survival, pretty much.
Helps us to thrive.
Well, and if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else well, if you will. So what's the most common thing when you're talking to your patients? Is there a common theme when it comes to these folks who are dealing with, a negative mental attitude?
They have often been through a lot in their life. They've maybe had a lot of trauma, a lot of depression or anxiety that has not been identified. And when they start to reach out and identify that it's okay to connect with a therapist, it's okay to get resources to think in different ways, sometimes it's so automatic. You're not even aware that you're thinking in this negative way. And so with my patients, when I start to partner with them, they can see patterns in the way that they think, and that there are other ways of thinking that never even came to mind.
Is it worth journaling your feelings then to see that pattern?
I love journaling. Journaling is number one. It makes us more insightful. It helps us to identify those patterns, and it gives us an unfiltered opportunity to look at our thoughts and our feelings and connect them, connect the dots. Because often we're looking backwards. Hindsight is 20/20. But if we process our emotions in the moment, we can affect the future.
For those who've been through a lot, especially if things were done to them, anger is such a huge thing. How do you work through that?
Anger also comes from hurt. Identifying, pulling back the anger and looking at what is truly triggering this hurt. And I work with a lot of people in counseling to identify some of those triggers of anger. Sometimes we just see the camel that breaks the back, the straw that breaks the camel's back. We see that part of it. But when you look a little bit deeper, you could see that there's been a pattern, there's been a theme that can trigger the anger.
Is it usually people are going to tell you have such a negative attitude, or maybe you notice people just don't want to hang out with you anymore? How do you recognize that you're that person, the negative Nancy, if you will, that has that issue that nobody really wants to be around you?
It's true. Positivity is contagious as well as negativity. So if people around you are saying things like, you seem really down, or you are dragging down the atmosphere, or they avoid you, it is important to pay attention to and to listen to. It can be hard, right, when people tell us that we're being negative, but it's reflected back to us.
When do you know you need to talk to somebody?
If, again, people continue to tell you that you seem down, you don't seem yourself, I often can see a decrease in functioning when people have been negative or stressed for long periods of time. So it's a persistent pattern. Your eating or your sleeping have changed. You isolate. Things are no longer fun that you used to enjoy. Those are a few red flags that's important to reach out to get some guidance or some help or some treatment.
How do you convince someone to do that if that's not part of their makeup, that they, naturally would reach out for help?
First, plant a seed. You can also come back to it. Sometimes you can mention it, plant that seed, come back to it, help them find resources. That can be one of the biggest barriers of not knowing where to go or who to talk to. So partnering with them to find resources. Also finding good role models. There are many celebrities that are out there who talk about the benefits of counseling. And also, you can take that first step yourself of getting some counseling and showing that it is not as scary as many people think.
All right, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I think that we can all work on changing our thoughts. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the key facets right now of therapy, and it's not that difficult. With persistence and practice, we can all change the direction of our thoughts.
And change your perspective because you don't know what anyone else is going through.
Yes, definitely. Have some compassion and give people the benefit of the doubt.
All right, Dr. Albers, thank you.
Thank you.
Great advice. A South Carolina published author knows how powerful your words can be, and she's only 6 years old. Riley Hackett has her story.
I am strong. I am amazing.
This is Taylin Goings. She's a second grader, and a couple of years ago, she decided to write a book.
I just wanted to help other people remind themselves that they are amazing.
Goings' mother, a professor at UNC, had recently published a textbook. She says her daughter was intent on writing a book too.
She would regularly ask me if she could write a book. And so one day I said, well, what would this book be about? What do you want to write about? And she said, I want to write a book focused on affirmations, telling people that their words are powerful.
An affirmation is a short phrase that people repeat to themselves to help improve their mental health. The Association of Psychological Science says affirmation of values can significantly lower cortisol, the stress hormone. Goings was just 5 years old when she published My Words Are Powerful, an affirmation book.
We were just blown away. I remember she was jumping up and down.
1 year later, Goings is sharing her book with schools, churches, and her community. She says she's using the money she makes from book sales to help people in a different way.
I started my book yesterday to somebody, and I got $10, and there was this old lady beside the street, and she said anything could help, and so I gave all the money I had with me to her.
Reporting in Columbia, I'm Riley Hackett, News 19 WLTX.
Now, we know we all can't be positive all the time, and there is something known as toxic positivity. That's an obsession with positive thinking and the belief that people should put a positive spin on all experiences. Experts say it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry or frustrated. The message here is to have empathy and compassion for others so they don't feel ignored, unheard, and angry.
Folks are afraid to feel, and they're afraid to feel their emotions. But this is really it's a kind of a test of empathy and one's ability to have empathy and show empathy.
If someone confides in you, experts say the best thing to do is allow yourself to notice them, sit with them, listen, and accept those difficult emotions. It's all about creating balance. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Prescription for Life. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here next week with another dose. Until then, I'm Monica Robbins, wishing you and yours good health.
Thank you so much for tuning into Health Yeah. Please find me on Twitter and Instagram at Monica Robbins. Like and follow my Facebook page, Monica Robbins WKYC. Find video podcasts at Monica Robbins channel on YouTube. And please subscribe. Wishing you great health and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks for listening to Health Yeah with Monica Robbins from WKYC Studios. Subscribe now so you never miss an update. And find more on everything you heard here on WKYC.com and on the WKYC app.